Good day, everyone. My name is Michelle Abaya. This video will talk about cleaning up the raw data from Yahoo Finance. After we enter our symbol and get the data, we need to make initial decisions before that data can be transformed. So here we then transfer the date, the open, the high, the close prices, the volume to the new sheet so that we can then add new columns such as year, ratio, and then our error conditions columns. Here we also have a section that shows our ticker symbol, the sector, the country, and average volume. This is so we know what company data we are working on. The average volume shows the current year's average volume. This is, I think, is a good idea to include so that we know if this is an active ticker or an active company based on its volume. So before and after date lines, first original date or the first data in our raw data. Then if there are any exclusions, then right below is our new date or that we start uh, our data. Uh, and then we have the lines previously, how many lines that are data generated versus how many lines actually passed in the next stage. And then we have error definitions or conditions that we believe would exclude the data points. More on that later. Lastly, we have the end result table that shows the years that would be excluded. If it is marked Y, that means yes. So for each line marked yes, it is then excluded, uh, not be able to pass the next stage. So what do we consider as errors or bad data? I listed three conditions: lines with volume equals 0, lines with volumes less than 15,000, ratio from current line closing price to the end date or newest price is over 1,000. So we might later on decide to only exclude volumes that are equal to 0 or exclude volumes less than 15,000 if or in combination with other conditions. That's why we have two separate columns for that. Uh, just in case you're wondering why I made two columns when I could just make one, make it less than 15,000. So it's because it's because these conditions will still change. Then as for the ratio, we might have a year in which most of the data have volumes greater than 15,000, for example, the prices, but the prices from those years were way so distant from the current price that first it doesn't even fit or look pretty in our table. And once we aggregate all the data, it might not even be reliable include in terms of including it for rally, sell-off, or any major events at which these bad data occurred. So, for example, we have a company that is currently priced at $1.56 per share. I could not remember if that was INPX, but I saw that. And when you look at the earlier years, those prices were adjusted to, and it is now showing 100,000. That's adjusted per Yahoo Finance. So This might mean several dilution happening over the years. So those who are holding their share from those years, assuming no more activities, have already lost so much value in their holdings. Or, knowing that, we might later decide that the volume was actually adjusted to reflect the adjustment of the price, that we probably shouldn't use less than 15,000 volume to determine what to exclude. Maybe we'll just do volume equals zero. So nothing is set in stone. As we examine more and more of these companies, we learn the nuances, change our minds, create new conditions. This is just my initial thoughts about what I consider as bad data. Just to clarify, we do allow a certain percentage of up to 70% um, uh, in which data lines meet those conditions before we make that decision to omit an entire year. So the errors must be over 70%. So from 1995 to 2000, we have 63% or 158 out of 252 lines in that year that we have volume less than 15,000. In the consecutive years, we have over 20% to 38% that meets those conditions, but we didn't omit. Um, there wasn't even any ratio problem, which probably means the volume listed were the real volume. They're not being consolidated or adjusted um, because of the prices were adjusted, for example, due to reverse splits. So we don't even see that. So this decision may seem like it's very arbitrary, or it doesn't make sense to anyone. So that is something uh, that it can be very subjective. So my end goal is to capture major events. That's undoubtedly a major event backed by high volume. That's why I'm doing this. Older companies like XOM, or even companies with relatively low volume like LENB, that's Lenner Corporation, are not necessarily affected by these initial conditions we set to determine exclusions. A newer company such as INPX, an older company such as CVM, they have many of their years omitted or not included for further analysis. It can be very time consuming to make these determinations, and lots of trial and error are involved, but it is what it is. Therefore, the conclusions we make must take into consideration the steps we took to collect, to gather, to transform the data. In other words, all the processes involved must be understood before we make concrete statements about the data we just examined.